Welcome. You are progressing quite proficiently. I'm pleased with your progress. I hope you are. But I thought it might be time for a little review of what you just did in the payroll memo so that you can really solidify this direct approach. And in your payroll memo, you were asked to write a standard announcement about changing how they handled their hours and payroll. So you recall that the direct layout was used when we had good news, answers to questions that were asked, standard announcements, requests for information, and standard requests. But it was the standard announcement that you were doing. In other words, you weren't expecting any resistance. They really didn't have to do much differently. It was just a change in what they were doing. So you weren't asking them to go and do something in addition. How this format played out for you in the payroll was in the first paragraph, we asked them what we wanted them to do, which is please submit these time cards to me by such and such date and time. We went back and explained why we were changing it and any extra modifications that we wanted them to do. For instance, many of you picked up on the fact that there was a new time card to fill out and told them where they could get it. We indented the action that we wanted them to take in a vertical list, and the key here was to make each line start the same way. So if you started with a verb, all of them had to start with a verb. This is called parallel. We make them all match, and the reason we do that is that human beings, our minds seek out patterns, so it's easier for us to assimilate it if everything starts the same way. You could have also started with nouns, and some of you did that and did it well. But verbs, usually when we want them to take action, we do verbs. And then in the end, you had to give specific contact information, not just, feel free to call me, but please call me at, and give them your phone number right in the body of the text, because this was a memo, so we didn't have all of the extra endings that you would have in a formal letter. And then we wanted to try to get that end date at the very end. And the reason we want to do that, we have it in the beginning and we have it at the end. And the reason we do that is because the human eye will, even if you're skimming, catch first and last. So you are more than welcome to repeat that end date. And the closer you get it to the end of your document, the better, because the eye will catch it there. I also pushed you to start that close with a warm fuzzy. I call them warm fuzzies. It's building your team. It's showing them what the benefit is to them and how much you appreciate what they're doing, instead of because you are, dear valued customer, right? That's not very sincere. We don't buy that. But if you are more specific about what it is you appreciate about them, they will feel appreciated. Good. So now you recall the approach we took, which you'll take with everyone. What is it I want them to do or think? In this case, it was I want them to use the new time cards and turn them into me instead of what they've been doing. Who needs to do or think it? It was my department only. And when do I want it? Well, I wanted it, some of you wanted it 2 days before you had to turn it in by 5 p.m. on Monday. What is important to them? Well, it's important to them to get paid. So everybody got that part, the benefit to them. Whenever we want people to do things, we want to ask ourselves, why is this important to them? As always, I'm always looking for ways for you to apply this directly to your work lives. And don't worry if you haven't had a work life yet, or you are currently full-time student. You can also try this out within your school's department, with your school, with other organizations. So think about what you might actually try to use this technique for in a written communication. So your assignment will be number 9 on page 240, which is to propose an idea. And they want you to use direct format. Usually with proposals we go indirect because we expect people not to want to have to do something extra or pay extra. But in this case, They feel that there would be no resistance because we're actually offering an idea that would require very little effort and have huge benefits. So they asked you to look at your sample on page 215, number 3. If you have your book, you might want to take a look at it, or you can just follow along with me. In that sample, we have Grace writing, and she has the idea of adding hot food choices to a menu. She works at a deli salad bar. And so her subject line is adding hot food choices to the menu. But because we can't get inside people's heads, I like to assume that there's a reason they don't already have that. There may be a very good reason why they don't want to do that. So I may not use that specific subject. But let's see how she put it together. Did she follow our format? I have an idea. The restaurant has done well, but the guest count and revenue have been declining. Okay, so I summed up what's in there. So she presents her idea. I have an idea. So she does present the idea right up front. Check. She did what she is proposing right up front. She also includes the explanation of why she sees it as needed in that first paragraph, and you now know that I'm going to ask you to put it in the backfill paragraph, in the second paragraph. So in her second paragraph, she goes straight to what we call a leader sentence. When you have a list, and I didn't tell you this before because you had so much you had to learn before, whenever you set up a list, it is wise to do it in this way. And she does a great job of saying, if we redesign the menu, then we will benefit in these ways, colon. And that's how you set up for your list. So she does a list, and it's completely parallel, as you will see. Increase, distinguish, and keep pace are all verbs. The only thing that seems a little cumbersome about it is how long each of the bullet points are. In bullets, we try to strive to be very concise and make it easy to read. So I looked at it, and what I realized was she was pulling out the highlights. We can increase our revenue and profit, distinguish the cafe from competitors, keep pace with market trends. And then she does a colon and explains why that is so. So if I were going to revise that, I might just take out the why it is so part. If you want it to stand out, you can just leave the benefits. Or she could turn it into a regular sentence. Increase revenue and profit because hot foods are priced higher. And leave it at that. Okay, now let's look at her close. Does she do a warm fuzzy? Not really, but she definitely shows the benefit. By adding hot foods, Jason's can return to last year's revenue level. That kind of went flat with me, because while they may want some relief and want to return to their revenue level, I would like to see opportunities to go even beyond what they made last year. Then she says, look at how she gets her deadline in, even though this is a proposal. I look forward to hearing your reaction when we meet on Thursday. There's the deadline. It's not at the very end, but she had a deadline in there. He knows the time frame in which he needs to think about this so that he can be prepared to talk with her about it. At that time, and then she goes above and beyond here. I really like this. At that time, I can provide you with more of my research, showing her effort she's putting in here and what a team player she is. So often, don't you hear this? People come up with ideas and then expect somebody else to do the legwork. But she really sounds committed to this and contributing to the company in a real way. So overall, I think this is a beautiful close. I would like to see a little more of the you attitude. So, of course, I had to tinker with it. Ready to see how I did? Oh, and there's no contact information, but again, it's an email. So possibly she's just expecting him to hit reply or waiting till Thursday to hear his ideas. Okay, so now that I know where we're going with this, I went back and revised our subject line. Just in case there is resistance, I want to grab them where it really counts. So I wrote just increasing revenue. Will they read this memo or email? You better believe it. People like the idea of increasing revenue. Who doesn't? Now, the only way I wanted to change this was to get that I out of here, because that we're always looking for ways to make it more of a you attitude or a we attitude, at least. In this case, it's an internal communication, so I want to foster teamwork. So I just wrote the company's name. Jason's can increase revenue immediately with the addition of hot items to the buffet. I just jumped right to the point. In my middle paragraph, I wrote the explanation. And again, I got this you in here. Look, as you know, obviously, her boss is already aware of the revenue situation and the accounts. So I pull out, this is why we're doing it. This is why it's important to do it. And then I pretty much left her leader sentence alone, except I indicated the research I conducted indicates that a redesign will. So I tell them right there about the research, that this isn't just a general idea. I have actually researched it, so these bullets now make good sense. This is how I know what my bullets are. And watch my clothes. It got fatter, yes it did, but I wanted to put that little warm fuzzy in there. You always encourage your team members to generate ideas. This is something that I'm assuming this particular manager values and strives to do. So I want to acknowledge that. Then I go into by adding hot foods, and I added just 2 words to get that sense of possibility in there. Instead of just last year's revenue, I want to say or beyond. If you want to talk about this further, I'm going to give him an opportunity here to make a connection with me before we meet and tell me what he's thinking. You can just call me at and give my extension. Otherwise, I can provide you with more data at our meeting. And then I was a little worried she was going to say, I look forward to hearing from you, which is cliche and doesn't mean anything, but it was so specific I wanted to keep it. I look forward to hearing your thoughts when we meet Thursday. So I reordered it so that Thursday is now at the end, just as I've asked you to do. Does that mean you're going to be able to do that in your first draft? Maybe not. But at least you know where we're going with this project. Good. Okay, now you're ready for your assignment. And your assignment appears on page 228. It's number 8. And you're to come up with an idea, a real life idea, that will help you or your company. Now keep in mind here that if it is generating income or increasing productivity or reducing errors, these are things your company actually cares about. If you are looking for a salary increase for the same amount of work, you aren't likely to get a whole lot of eagerness from that. So your idea needs to be something that benefits the company. And I'm afraid to announce that while they talk a lot about employee satisfaction, it isn't something they really care about unless it increases productivity somehow. So focus on that. You have your sample on page 204, but remember, I just went over how it could be even better, so I'm holding you to the even better standard, and you might want to print that slide out, and then you will submit it this weekend. So good luck with this and have fun, and certainly wait to get feedback before you actually submit it if it is something you would like to submit in real life.